All right, Jared, how's it going?
Hey, how's it going, Mike? Good.
Good. So I started following you and I learned a lot from you when it comes to mace swings. I haven't done any of your other exercises, but the 360 has changed my life and it's awesome. How did you get started in all this? And why did you get started in all this?
Well, 360 can absolutely change your life. It's definitely done that for me as well. So super glad to hear that. Yeah, man, it's been like some of the ways that I describe it is it feels like I fell into a time warp because of where I was and like I feel like how fast things accelerated because it just totally turned my life upside down in like the most amazing way that I never could have imagined. But basically, it's a really good question because I had my movement background is primarily in martial arts, really actually starting in wrestling in high school. And basically did martial arts for a real long time. I was competitive in college. I most recently was teaching a kickboxing class leading into the pandemic. And of course, that obviously got nixed right when the world went to hell in a handbasket. So uh, somewhere along the line, I had seen a mace. To this day, I can't remember where I saw the first one. It might have been on its website or their social media, although I really wasn't big into the socials at the time. And I had had some kettlebell experience. I had done a lot of traditional kettlebell workouts and anything from hit to strength. I've got some old cast irons here behind me actually that I've literally had for probably 8 or 9, maybe 10 years now. That were great for me to have some kind of basis of unconventional tools to work with.
Mhm.
But man, I got a mace from Amazon, 15-pound mace, in April of 2020. Actually, in 3 days it will be 2 years on the dot. So really,
Nice.
really interesting and excited to look back on all that as it's come to fruition. But man, I got a mace and I didn't know what to do with it. I just remember seeing one at some point, thinking that it was really cool, keeping in the back of my head that I wanted to get one. And so when I finally had it after my kickboxing or my kickboxing class that I was teaching got canceled, I was like, let's see what I can do with this. So like most people do, I went to YouTube and as well as Instagram, and I just searched for steel mace workouts, steel mace movement, whatever I could find. And I came across a lot of really good content, especially I would say for mace, especially, most folks that you're going to see are going to do a lot of the traditional style 10 and 2s, 360s, and work in some other, you might say like conventional styled, unconventional movements like
Okay.
offset presses and things like that. Things that people can do just like strict press reps and things of that nature, work on specifically. But man, things really things really went to hyperdrive whenever I found flow. I eventually found my friend Leo Yerkidis, Leo Savage, and basically I saw the martial aspect to what he was doing, and ultimately that helped me to shift my perspective a little bit. And so I started finding others in the community, and being that the pandemic was going on and we were right in the middle of lockdown, there was nothing for me to do. I mean, as a single guy, I don't have any kids, I'm not married. So I live in the west part of Nashville on the outskirts of town, and there's a beautiful park with a big field that I basically went out to every single day. And I made it this sort of personal practice of mine to go out around sunset after work. And I would literally just put my bare feet in the ground. I would, you know, get sweaty and dirty. I would swing the mace, put on some music, and basically watch the sunset and learn how to use the mace in any possible way that I could. And slowly but surely, it just continued to evolve and evolve. And honestly, I never had any expectation to actually post anything for the longest time, but it kind of got to a point where I wanted to be a part of the community and want to be a part of something bigger. And I felt that I had something to show. So that's what led me to start posting like not even 2 years ago. So
That's awesome. Yeah, that setup sounds amazing. Going out to the park and watching the sunset, swinging mace sounds
so simple.
absolute, dude. It sounds so awesome though. Sounds
Yeah.
so awesome. I'm in Wisconsin and it was 70 degrees yesterday and is now currently 38 degrees. So
Uh-huh.
I'm very excited for this warm weather coming in because it's going to be some outside work. I'm actually thinking about so I own my own concrete company. I'm actually thinking about getting a couple steel maces just to leave in my work truck and just do them right before we pour because I feel like it's even just a good stretch and just opens you up and gets you ready to go.
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah. Anyways, I'm excited for this warmer weather. I want to go outside and swing that thing and get my feet in the dirt and just go to town for half hour to an hour.
Especially with something like that. And that's a lot of physical work and labor and stuff. So yeah, I mean, I couldn't think of many better ways to get your arms and shoulders geared up for doing something like that.
Yeah. I mean, so we were talking before we started recording, but I had a shoulder injury from jujitsu. I got it back in January, and they were telling me it was going to be a good 3 to 4 months of recovery on it. And did a podcast shortly after that. One of the guys, that was their big thing, was kettlebells and steel maces. And then I was like, man, I wonder if this would work if I could do this with a shoulder injury. And I was able to. And with getting all that blood flowing into there, I mean, it just makes sense. It healed faster, but then it also comes to, like I was saying, warming up. I think it's a great warm up, especially I only have a 15 pounds, so it's pretty light for me now, but it's awesome. It's so addicting. Like I go in my little gym and it's just like I have to do it. Like regardless of how tired I am, it's like, all right, you're doing 20 reps each side, done.
Do it. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it's weird because I can remember even thinking back to the first time that I started doing it. If I hadn't seen somebody do it, and if I hadn't seen people that were like advertising this is a great workout and then watching them do reps, I might have even thought this isn't good for you potentially. Like because it's such a I was telling you, like we said, before we started recording, it was like, man, you could be a professional baseball pitcher. You could be Matthew Stafford with the Lions and be, a badass at throwing the football. I don't care what it is on the professional level. There's not another sport that I can think of that loads weight into the shoulder when you're swinging and performing it through the full rotation of your rotator cuff. And so, on first goes with it, I was like just kind of trusting the confidence of these people that I'd seen online. But really, as you've already discovered, it doesn't take too long before you start to really feel that extension and stretch, and it starts to really feel good. And
Yep.
then you can also feel like you're getting stronger with it over time. So it really is like just kind of this awesome thing to do, whether it is that you decide to go full bore and do as many movements with the mace as you possibly can, or you just want to stick with 360s. I think it's an awesome, awesome, awesome way to keep your shoulder health great, as well as build up all of your obliques and your traps and everything else on the side of your body. Like this is all stuff that I was beginning to discover about myself that I never had any experience with before that. So it took a little bit of getting used to, I think, but like I'm, as you are, totally hooked on it.
Yeah, it was instant too. As soon as I pulled it out of the box, it was just like, holy crap, like why is this so it's fun. First off, you don't even feel like you're working out. It's just like, no, I gotta figure this thing out. How does this thing work? But really that's all I've been doing is the 360 swings. But watching you, I mean, you put together flows and I don't know the names for any of the stuff that you do, but it looks
I don't
pretty
know the names
awesome.
too, but
But it looks awesome and it's definitely a killer workout. So I can see how adding that movement into it can totally just kick your ass. But so what made you go full bore 100% with this? Like, is this the only kind of training you do is with steel maces and clubs, or you do
not anymore.
not anymore?
Yeah. So yeah, great. I mean, so good question. So like I mentioned, I started much of my movement background. I mean, I played all the sports growing up. I'll be honest, and I played everything, but like, I mean, everything I could in Arkansas, where I'm from, basically. Anything from cross country to tennis to baseball, football, whatever. But really, wrestling and martial arts was the thing that I really clung to and found both myself having some gifts there, as well as just loving the movements, the motion, the way that it builds your body, orients for self defense and strength. Especially mono a mono, one-on-one combat. That's something that always really appealed to me from like a personal strength and development perspective. And so the full bore aspect came from the fact that I saw how others were utilizing it in a capacity that was very similar to martial arts. I mean, just thinking about doing a lateral lunge with a mace, I mean, it's like a lateral lunge is as much of a martial move as just about anything you're going to find and see. And anything from Tai Chi, to whatever it is, any other capacity, even your yoga and other things like that. So, really seeing that, gave me the inspiration to go and dive even deeper into it. And then basically what happened, man, is I started to play with all these different facets of weights after that. So I started with a 15, just like you. And then I actually went down first because I realized that I could get a greater range of motion and that there was a lot that I could do to build strength at extension. When you push the mace out into end ranges, you can basically shore up weakness and help build the weakest parts of your body, which is like, if you take it from the perspective that you're judging by what you're weakest at, making that strong and then working everything around it is just another perspective on how to build the totality of strength. So I actually went down and got a 10-pound mace and primarily used that for the longest time. But eventually I got a 20-pound and then I got a 12 kg and then I started to get clubs. And then, so now I've got a 25-pound club and a 35 and a 45. And then I got more kettlebells and I started getting the competition kettlebells. And so it was kind of like, that's one reason why I kind of call it time warp to some degree, is because I feel like I fell in this black hole that kept sucking me deeper, because it was like, okay, there's steel mace. But then I saw so many of these people were using clubs. And then some of these people were doing kettlebells. And, just like the point of what you're doing here, inspiring people to start their movement journey, their fitness journey, the coolest thing I think about the unconventionals is how well they not only translate to each other, but the ways in which you can ingrain the practices. And like, there's some days, man, where I'm like, I'm going to play with clubs and kettlebells today. And I don't touch the mace as much. I almost always do a few mace swings because just like you talking about doing those, okay, I'm going to do 20 on each side. Like I got to do my swings. I still have that feeling. Absolutely. But like, man, you can get into Bulgarian bags. When I learned about Landmine University, I don't know if you know about those guys and the coil core, and I learned about David Weck. I mean, it totally becomes this rabbit hole. Like whatever degree of YouTube rabbit hole you could think of, this is like 10 times that. And I just kept getting deeper and deeper. And it was really cool to see eventually the flywheel effect of how working on mace and then starting to incorporate kettlebells and then going to clubs, they all had little unique aspects that translated to one another. And so as I've learned movements, I've been able to find ways to incorporate them in various capacities in the other tools. And like, now it's just like, there's a million and one things I have on my mind anytime I go outside to basically play around. And I just try to discover and explore anything I possibly can.
Nice. So where do you come up with the movements? Is it literally just playing around, seeing what you can do and be like, oh, this kind of feels weird here. This is maybe a weakness, and then just kind of keep exploring it and go that route?
Yeah, I would say, from my journey's perspective, I started with the mace. And so I naturally dove into the steel mace flow community and to that practice. And steel mace flow, is a great foundation, I think, for helping people to orient themselves and get their mind associated with like, okay, I'm looking this way, but the mace is on this side of my body or it's right in front of me. The landmarks they created are really great. And so I do think that was a great starting point. But then as I began to expand into it, and this is where things start to connect to the other tools, is that I found that there's a really cool relationship with gravity and momentum. As anybody that's ever done a kettlebell swing knows, like that feels way different than doing a conventional Olympic style lift. And that's not a good or bad thing necessarily inherently. But if you think of any of the conventional lifts, whether it's a squat or bench press, or just a strict press or what have you, the range of motion is usually very small. I mean, I think a snatch is probably the greatest range of motion. I mean, there may be one that I'm not thinking of in terms of what you would get out of just a singular motion, how far you're reaching or you're moving, or what the total range of motion is. But generally speaking, I think that the conventionals have a lot more leeway in there and are so much more dependent on that understanding that relationship with gravity, because you're going to let the weight go to a point of suspension, as
Mhm.
I call it. It's like, like again, that point in a kettlebell swing, just a regular Russian swing, when it hits that midpoint and it stops going up and then it starts coming down, playing with that relationship and then applying it to the clubs and the kettlebells is really where I started to be able to make some major dividends. Because what happens is as I play with the different weights, I start to pull on it, and it pulls against my body. And really, what it takes is lining yourself upright, so that way you don't hit yourself. That's super important, and that's what the foundation of paying attention to your lines is super important. So you ever see somebody say like drawing really pretty lines, beautiful lines, because they're talking about, even from a martial arts perspective, that you really want to be square, you really want to be almost militaristic about it, because that also teaches it corrects your posture. In a day and age when all of our cell phones and everything want us to be locked in and hunched over, this practice, in order to do it right, is going to teach you to be tall, keep your chest out, keep your shoulders back. And then that way, every time something swings, it's swinging against a strong, tall body, not from something that's just caving in every time and bending, because you have to build that structure. So that's definitely like the structure builds to the posture, and then that starts to open things up in various ways.
Yeah, I mean, so you said making sure you're in a line and making sure your swing's good so you don't hit yourself. I've definitely done that a lot of times. It's not the best feeling. I know it's only
No.
15 pounds, but man, it hurts when you get it right in the side of the leg.
Those mace kisses are not fun. No, and honestly, man, I've spent, I do think about it a lot. Like, there's a lot of stuff that I do that a lot of folks are very apprehensive of, and they well should be, or that they're worried about trying for safety reasons. And I do often, especially if I do think something's particularly, if I'm advertising a certain movement, and I'm particularly worried about the way that people may utilize it, I usually try to provide some disclaimer to pay attention to one aspect or another, because it is important to not hurt yourself. And even more so, it's like I'm expanding and exploring like these different forms of movement and different moves. But like, I'm also trying to think about ways that I can go backwards, instead of just leaving breadcrumbs for people to follow, like also go back and find ways to actually really incorporate it to where it's make sure that folks can be safe. Like I do mace tosses a lot, and I have now discovered a way to do it like super routine. I can just toss it up, and I can catch it and let it continue to go in motion. But that's all because I developed those lines over time, and my hope is that I can be able to reverse engineer that well enough eventually one day, to the degree that people can like really safely teach it. But still, it's one thing to learn something, it's another thing also to take the time to figure out the best way to teach it, especially when we're talking about stuff like this.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like you just said, I watch some of your stuff and I'm just like, oh my God, I'm not trying that. I'm totally going to hurt myself. Not doing it. But it's awesome to watch, but it's also cool the way you just described it of you took the time, you actually went backwards. You started with 15, you went back down to 10. So I'm assuming when you're trying new movements, you do the same. You're not going to do it with the heavy weight, something you normally could do. You're going to go down and be like, it's like, you climb to the top of the mountain and it's like, okay, knock back down, start from
Yes.
scratch. Let's start over and see what else I can figure out, which I think is awesome. So,
Yeah, and that's a great point you bring up too, because that inverse relationship is really important over time.
right. Well, and it's nice to know, like, it's good that you're willing to not just stay at the top of the mountain with three movements that you're really good and I'm going to get really heavy with it, which you
Yeah.
can do, but you're also
Mhm.
starting over and trying to figure out those new movements, which is also going to add to your line and strengthen everything else.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, absolutely.
so do you teach anybody this stuff or you just the stuff you post online?
No, I do. I've had a couple of clients, since I started specifically. I've trained a few people specifically. I did a small seminar where I taught some coaches here in Nashville, and I've done a few classes. I would say it's been somewhat inconsistent. I do have a day job, and so I basically have tried to fill in this passion in any capacity that I can. But I am really intent on trying to build a community, especially physically, where I am here in Nashville. I think Zoom is great. Zoom and all the video conferencing technology has given people the opportunity to not only connect with others, but being taught by others. Like some people are really amazing at that. Like they got a great setup, or they really don't have a problem getting on Zoom calls to teach. I don't mind doing these kinds of conversations that are, in my mind, kind of business like anyways. I like I said, I principally work from home, and so I'm oftentimes on Zoom calls and so forth. So pretty used to that. But really, when it comes to movement, I try to get away from the computer as much as possible. Like when it comes to my time to go move, that's when I go back to my base practice of going. If I can go, if it's a nice day, man, I'm going to be at the park. I'm going to be somewhere outside, getting in front of the sun, and ideally trying to find ways to join and build a community around that. So like I mentioned earlier, this upcoming Sunday is my 2-year Mesa anniversary, and I've had a group now in Nashville that meets up generally on Sunday, Saturday or Sunday, depending, basically once a week or once every other week, for folks to come together for me to teach. And usually what I do is I try to teach some basics and then work folks up to sort of a flow of the week that we do. And it kind of gives them something, sort of both sides of it, to where they get the basics, but maybe they can kind of see where they can take it. And really, again, the goal there is to both from a community perspective, in a world now that is super disconnected. Everybody's staying in their homes, or that, just things have changed quite a bit. And so I do, like you say, I'm really intent on trying to build a physical community that hopefully will inspire more leaders here locally where I am. We have a few really cool people here in Nashville, but there's just not a lot of folks, in general, that know about maces and clubs and kettlebells. And, like you and I mentioned earlier, it's like, how is it that people how is it people aren't picking up maces everywhere, and clubs and kettlebells and so forth? And honestly, I think it's just, we have to keep preaching the gospel and keep putting it out there so people keep saying it, because most of the time, like I would say like 90% of the time that somebody walks up to me, or I start having a conversation about what I do, they have no idea. Like probably like 99% of the time, or if they do, like I'll get asked a lot if what I do is functional patterns. And so, I'll speak to that to a degree, and some of the variation that there's quite a bit of difference there. But yeah, I mean, more than anything, it's finding ways to get folks out in person and trying to make content that ideally helps to build a community, because I think that's really important for sure.
Yeah, well, you do a great job of it. It's not even, I mean, it's not just it's just fun to watch. It's just like, man, that's so freaking awesome. And you can tell, like, it's so much, like, I know it's so crazy, but it's so much freaking fun. And you can
It's
tell
so
when you're
fun.
doing I know it's crazy. And that rabbit hole you keep talking about, it is insanely deep. I've been down it multiple times, and I'm just like, oh my God, I don't know if I want to go this far in this thing, which I do. But in my head, it's like, just tread slowly, because you can
Take it
go
step by step.
you can go fast.
Yep. Yep. In fact, we often say slow is smooth, smooth is fast. So that's
For
not a bad
sure.
approach
For
to learning
sure.
it too. It's funny because like one of those things that's in that rabbit hole, as we talked about, is like when I first started. So again, going back to like when I first started doing this, and within the first couple, okay, I got a mace in April of 2020. Got a mace April 2020. I didn't post anything on Instagram. Like I had never posted really physical stuff or workouts. I just didn't do the socials back then. But like 2 months after that, I think it was like June when I did my first Mace post. And honestly, before I did it, I probably waited about a month, because in my mind, I was like, this isn't gonna look good or cool, or like nobody's gonna want to see this or whatever. And so I just started recording myself. I did see some other people online that were doing it. And then over time, I was like, no, it actually looks kind of cool. Like it looks interesting. And like, and I kind of got into, on my own level, my own personal level, I kind of got sucked into the idea of of like, you know, making sure that it's something that is appealing as well. Like I have so just like you said, it's like super fun. You don't have to put up a camera and you're just gonna have a blast. That is the case most of the time, actually.
Right.
But when you do, you know, it still can look really awesome and even just like somewhat soothing. Like I've had people that have commented and said like it just looks like whether it's like I'm skating or dancing or moving, it's like there's a kind of element to it that can be attractive from a sort of a just a like an oddly satisfying perspective. And so there are some folks that get into it just because they enjoy seeing that kind of nice, soothing, you know, quality movement. And you know, there's a whole side to that that I've got into. Even like those clubs, like the Indian club people, when you sit there, you I mean, that's a whole thing that feels good for your body, but it looks really cool too. It looks very fascinating. Like you're like it almost like atomically, like it looks like somebody should be moving in this way and like working their arms in this way. There's a whole thing about it.
Yeah, that's crazy. I've recently watched some videos on that, and it's almost confusing on how they do it. It's like,
Yeah.
should your hands move like that? They probably should move like that. With weight though, I don't know if I could do that. It's just the way I don't even know how to do it. It's just crazy how they do it.
Their posture is really unique. Yeah, I mean, like it's like this is something like I had access to some really cool. I don't have access anymore, but I had access for a period of time to like two original Spalding, like the company, the sporting goods company, used to make wooden clubs. Like I don't think they still do, but like I had some historical ones that were over 100 years old, woodens, 1.5 pounds. And I just a few times I would practice what I've seen online, where you're super tall, your feet are really close together, you're standing like you look at a tree, and your arms are straight out. And I can see why they do it from the perspective of how it feels, but also just how it looks. And it's just one of those weird things that, you know, it took me a few times to see it before my intrigue level started to increase. And so, you know, I get it. I totally get it. I've got 5 pound clubs right now, some steel clubs. I mean, these guys are just tiny, and this is a gift, honestly. But I do use them to do just that, just to like get a nice end of range extension full out for my arms. And you know, it's wild. Like that's a whole nother thing that you could totally go down if you wanted to.
For sure. Watching what you do, it reminds me of like, it kind of reminds me of yoga, right? So I've made that connection where I was like, okay, this is like people really got into yoga. If they could really get into this, like they did with yoga, and like start this as like the next yoga phase, like
Yeah.
it'd be pretty awesome.
That's a good point. I mean, and you know, like so that's like one entry angle, right? Like there's so many of them. I think that's a good one because I do think it provides a range of motion and mobility practice there. But I also think, you know, I mean, there's a lot of guys that do yoga, but admittedly, I mean, I guess I don't know numbers, but I very well suspect that that's still a movement style that's primarily dominated by women. No problem with that, but I think from the steel mace perspective, and to your point, I think that there's a lot that's attractive from it, both for men and for women. I see a lot of women that do steel mace,
For sure.
but I do think for men, it gives them it like you feel like a warrior when you're holding it. And so
For
that's
sure.
kind of the way that I sort of take that practice. So there's steel mace yoga, like there's an iteration of steel mace yoga, iteration of steel mace vinyasa that have been made by people that are, you know, rooted out of yoga, and that's one way that you can take it. But I think, especially in so much that I can speak to it from being a guy, it's like you can feel what it feels like to be a warrior, and the movements make you feel strong. And that's a distinction that I make. I had a kettlebell post recently where I talked about, did a kettlebell flow, and I talk about the weight pulling you. And that's something that has to happen after you've built your posture up. And really, more importantly, when you feel strong, when you're pulling the weight, to eventually let the weight to start to pull you a little bit. And that kind of stretch and strength component, you know, I think is something that a lot of, especially I think guys can really relate to, that gives them the range of motion that they might not have otherwise gotten if they didn't do yoga or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. It builds. I keep on saying core, but it builds like your whole body. It just makes it super stable. And
Yeah,
once you feel stable, it's like it's so easy to do things. Like everything just feels easier. And
yeah,
granted, I'm still like super light and I haven't done as much as you have, but just the short amount of time that I have done it, it's just like you just feel like you're stable, like you're
mhm,
not going anywhere.
yeah,
That makes
yeah.
sense.
Yeah. Well, no, actually, in fact, I'll expound on that to say, I heard my friend Mark Waldman. I don't know if you know who Mark Waldman is,
Yeah.
but he's a buddy of mine, and I got a chance to meet him a few times last year, and he recently talked about joint health and how, and I mean, this is something I've thought about for a long time as well, is how important it is to all the joints, all the range of motion. I think this is also how Indian clubs can really help you too, is that joint health in so many ways equals like athletic or performance health. When you lose range of motion in a joint or strength or whatever, you feel weaker, you're just going to steadily, like, unless you're addressing that, it's just going to get weaker and weaker, and so you'll stop using that joint as much, and so it becomes a cascading effect to where you use less and less of your full range of motion, which is going to eventually chip away at your ability to just do things, like
Mm-hmm.
in the most
Mm-hmm.
general sense, from getting out of bed in the morning. Or one that I like to think about, and this from jujitsu, is what do they call it, reach under the couch to get the remote, like
Yep.
when you're going, so that way you get that full extension. Like, it's super important. And when you like when you're able to take something like, whether it's a club or a mace especially, you can work on all the way from the wrist to the elbow to the shoulder, and make sure you have good health there. And to your point, that's ultimately going to build that kind of total body. Like, it's, you want to call it strength, but it really just makes you feel like you're capable of doing anything. And another way to put it's just like shoring up weakness and making sure that you're like, whatever you're weakest in, you're focusing on it. And the cascading effect there definitely, I think, translates to everything else. My ability to juggle kettlebells, I think, largely, like, especially like 16 kg and stuff like that now, is, I think, in many respects due to the emphasis that I put on full range of motion, which has helped me build my joints and again make me feel strong overall. So yeah, that relationship has been something that I'm discovering as being super important.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be curious to see like someone that does like CrossFit or powerlifting like religiously start picking this up and doing it like 2 to 3 times a week and
Yeah,
seeing what progress they could make, just because I know how it feels for me and what it's done for me. A, in
yeah,
recovery, and B, I just feel better when I do jujitsu. Everything doesn't feel tight. Everything feels looser. Working
yeah,
feels easier. Like everything just feels easier. You just feel solid. Like you're
yeah,
not going any, like I know I've said that multiple times, but I can't get it across any better than that. Like you
yeah.
just feel, I want to say grounded. Like you're not going anywhere,
You're
you
not
know?
going anywhere. You feel like things can pull you.
Yeah.
So, like, like when you think about jujitsu, somebody's going to grab your lapel and pull you. Well, when you're tall, like when you're doing a swing, that's pulling you down. Or if you do like a club swing and it's pulling you down. It's
Yep.
going across your center line. That's kind of similar to when somebody's grabbing your lapel
Yep.
and pulling you down, and you're having to remain tall so that way your posture doesn't break down and all that. So yeah, that's exactly right. And to your point with like CrossFitters and powerlifters, I kind of think it's going to be just a matter of time before they'll realize those specific levels of benefits. So, you like, some people may, may eventually transition kind of like I did, where I've gone totally with the unconventionals. Like, I don't do a ton of just strict Olympic lifting. And some of that's just because I don't have the access as much. I don't, I try not to go to the gym as much as I want to go to the park for a lot of reasons. But for some of these folks, they may do the full transition, but I think a lot of them, man, are gonna start doing little things to help to shore up their weakness. Like, I saw something, I think it was, I can't remember the guy, Mike something with bells or something, but he was talking about, he showed another video about Rich Froning, who's, I'm sure, and I don't know if you know that
Mm-hmm.
Rich Froning was like
Mm-hmm.
a big CrossFit guy for years. Well, Rich started to incorporate a stretch into his daily routine, or I think it was, I mean, into his routine in some capacity, where he was getting on the wall and putting his legs up to help stretch his lower back because he was having lower back pain. And he would do this, he would do like a turtle stretch, and like basically two or three of these stretches with his legs out against the wall to help really extend his lower back. And that small, addition to his routine, which I think was a total of like 5 minutes that he added to his routine, like eliminated his pain in that area. And so from that perspective, I think that if somebody's in powerlifting or CrossFit, I mean, powerlifting, I think will be a little bit harder because they'll have to work a greater range of motion. But either way, I think that they'll be able to utilize stuff like maces and clubs, especially to like just use it supplementally to help, build that range of motion back in their joints again. Because, I saw a good example is I saw a guy do, I think it's like a world record or something. He did like 1,000, some like maybe it was 1,300 pound bench press. This may have been a few years ago. And you see the guy do it, super impressive. But like as just looking at his body, he's a big dude, and I know that he doesn't, and you can tell he lacks a lot of range of motion. Which for me, if I'm him, I'm thinking like it may not be a problem for him now, but maybe in like 20 or 30 years, if he doesn't do something about it,
Right.
he may have a hard time getting out of bed. And how much would that suck after being able to do amazing things? So that's the thing I would try to like say to folks is, you know, there's whatever you do, you should definitely jump into the thing that you're most attracted to, that you connect with. That's going to get the brain firing. It's going to
Right.
get your, it's going to keep you, allow you to keep it up for longer. But just also consider what the impact may be long term. And I think more people are starting to think about it like that. I'm 31 and I'm already thinking that I want to be able to move like I move right now when I'm 70 plus. And
Right.
there are a few people that have made it doing that, but I think we'll start to see a lot more of it over time as people begin weighing like what it's like to pick up my kids versus do a Olympic lift.
Right. Well, yeah, I can attest to that because I'm 34, not old by any means, although I tell myself I'm old all the time. But I have buddies that we've literally worked together for 10 to 12 years, where they almost the exact same age. We live pretty much the exact same lifestyle, except for I work out, they don't. They hurt every single time they wake up. I don't. They tell me they got knee problems. I have zero knee problems. Their shoulders hurt. Okay, besides my shoulder injury, zero shoulder issues. Like I literally don't hurt at all. And I think it's because I'm always doing different movements, no matter what it is. So last year, maybe a year and a half ago, is when I got into kettlebells. It was a year ago, which opened up my eyes to be like, okay, this is really different. Started with a 35 pound, which was way too heavy. Doesn't sound heavy until you go to move it. Totally get your ass kicked for 30, 40 minutes. And then you realize you're not as strong as you think you are. And then I just got in the steel maces, and just for the short amount of time I've been doing both of those, I feel like everything just feels better. Like nothing hurts. It's everything's opened up and feeling way better than what it is. So,
And what's cool, because you probably also found other things to supplement that too, right? Because, and again, like cannot emphasize enough the thing, whatever it is that gets you into it, that gets you like excited and like creative, and you're thinking like, how can I get better at this type of movement? Is just going to open the wheels are going to help you start turning to do other things. So like you've probably found even like whether it's a warm up or a cool down, or I mean, I'd be curious to hear about your experience in that way, because I've done other things, even not even necessarily movement related, that have I think also helped progress in different ways. So talking about kind of like a holistic lifestyle, I'll admit that I intermittent fast, take cold showers, and I do the flow movement and stuff like that all the time. I mean, I think incorporating those things as well has really helped a lot, especially in recovery, and making me feel like I don't really take any days where I go backwards or I have to like really take off. My whole thing is so I can keep going. So have you found some like some interesting little wrinkles around your movement practice that's, also helped to.
Well, yeah, I do the same thing. Intermittent fasting I've done for a while now. It's just I live the construction life, so it's just standard practice. Eat lunch and then, or eat breakfast and then I'd say brunchish, and then eat dinner when you get home, and then you don't really eat until the next day. So that's just been instilled in for a while. And then cold showers I started doing like 2 years ago. Started with doing my normal shower and then the last 30 seconds cold. And now after I'm done working out, which I just read and I don't remember why, but after working out, a cold shower is actually not the best for you. But anyways, that's when I do it. I do a 2 to 5 minute cold shower every morning after my workout and then go to work. That cold shower, man, you do a hard ass workout and you do a cold shower, nothing is harder during the day. Like your
Yeah.
whole day is just so much easier. The days that I don't get to do one of those or miss both, it's like, oh my God, this day is like,
Like crap.
it's so hard to get through it.
Yeah.
Normal problems that would be like an easy problem to fix is like, it can ruin like the whole day. And it literally could
Yeah.
have been fixed in 2 minutes if I would have got my stuff done in the morning. So yeah, it's almost having that routine of making sure I'm getting the workout in. And sometimes the workouts aren't crazy. They're just literally, okay, I'm just going to knock out like 50 push-ups, 10 reps, 5 sets, just get it done. Just some kind of movement to get moving. And then that cold shower it sucks for the first, I'd say 30 seconds. And then after that, it's just like, whatever. But you get out and you feel alive. Like you feel, I don't know.
Yes. That's it.
You feel it's crazy. You feel alive. Like you're just like, all right, I'm ready for the day. Like nothing gets in the way.
Yeah.
You just go.
Yeah. I would describe it that way. And I kind of do basically what I do is at this point, I get into like a lukewarm or just a comfortable temperature.
Right.
But basically, to your point, at the end, I usually spend about 2 to 3 minutes as cold as I can get it. And the first 30 seconds of that, first 10, 15 seconds are the worst. But then you feel amazing after that. And to your point about it, like potentially not being good after a workout, that on like when you said that, I immediately goes back to when I played football in like junior high school, and they would tell us after, I mean, I'm from Arkansas and it gets freaking hot and sweaty. And, football practice in August is rough. But they would tell us, though, after being out in the hot sun, not to, everybody wanted to turn on the cold shower right then, right? But they would tell us to start it warm and then
gradually
progressively, gradually. And I think they do that because at least in this case, I don't know if this is what you were referencing, but I think the reason for that was because they didn't want our heart. Like, I think there's something about your heart rate that if you're not careful and you immediately go into a cold shower, that it could, it could be potentially difficult for your heart to take the stark nature of how cold it is. But I don't know if that's necessarily true or not. I know a lot of people that just do strict cold showers, but either way, I think if you start a little bit warm or whatever you want to do, that can be one way of limiting it. But I won't trade it now. At this point, it's like if I don't get that cold, the ice as ice cold as I can get it, especially if I put it right here in my back of my neck on that vagus nerve for a while. Man, it's like it totally settles everything. So it's wild. And like finding those kind of wrinkles has helped a lot. I mean, like I said, the intermittent fasting is one that I've been doing for several years now, but I've just steadily increased it and kept with it. And I probably go about 18 hours a day without eating, just water during the day. I used to drink coffee, and I've since switched that out with more or less a hydration replacement in the morning. That's no calories, and I just drink water all day. So that kind of period of time going without is, I think, also really helpful for getting ready for movement.
Yeah, I'm not giving up coffee. It's not happening. So you're not selling me on it. But I would say my cutoff's noon and it's 1 o'clock and I have coffee right now. So that'll be my last cup for the day.
I love coffee. I mean, and I'm not, and I had nothing to sell you. So honestly, I think there's a lot of folks that I, like you, like probably, I mean, I was drinking coffee like religiously every day in the morning. But I think for me, I kind of felt that feeling of like burning the candle at both ends. Maybe I wasn't sleeping as well. And so for me, I cut it out. But I think there's obviously like, I feel like coffee is one of those things that there's been ongoing research about for years and years and years and years. They used to say that it wasn't good for you, and then they started talking about it being good for you, but now they're saying it's not good again because it turns off the receptors that tell you that you're tired. I don't know, but either way, again, finding what works for you is like the super key thing. And that's the other thing too, is like one of the difficult things for me to describe to people about flow is like, people could do exactly what I do, but I really want them to find whatever it is that they can connect to in any capacity. And if I can be a part of their journey and leading them there, awesome.
Yeah. So back to the sleeping better. There's a book I just got done with called Sleep Smarter. I don't remember the author and I feel horrible about it, but that's exactly it. So if you give yourself a curfew at least of like noon, so there's like a percentage scale of like how much caffeine you're actually,
Yeah.
it kind of almost
Half
has like that compound effect. Like if you drink it too late before you go to bed. So usually I'm pretty strict about noon, 1 o'clock. I'm going to say 1 o'clock on the podcast because it's 1 o'clock and I just finished my coffee, but normally it is noon and it's a couple cups of coffee. I just love the taste of it. I think it's awesome. The thing that's helped me start sleeping better is I started foam rolling at night, and not just my legs, but a lot more into my stomach. And then I just got this, I don't even know what kind of ball it is, but it's hard, but it has some give, and really started rolling the abdominal muscles. And
Yeah.
that for some reason is like amazing to go to sleep. Like, I don't know. I started doing it like 2 weeks ago, and so far I feel better when I wake up. So
Yeah. No, I mean, I've done some foam rolling stuff like that in the past. I think there are people that have found some really cool like nighttime routines, and I'm definitely ears up about it. Most like I need to be better about, they say like go an hour without electronics and stuff like that. I admit I've got to be better about that for sure. But I have like I drink a nighttime cocktail thing that I've been getting now that has helped me quite a bit. So, but I'm gonna probably take a look at the foam roller thing. I've got a few of those.
yeah.
I may make
Yeah, I
those
highly
next.
recommend it. I mean, just roll yourself out at night, 5-10 minutes, whatever. Doesn't take long. And then just get like a, I don't know, medium-sized ball, something a little bit smaller than what a soccer ball would be. And you want it hard, but you don't want it like too hard, where it
Mhm.
has a little give, and like just really focus on like your abdominal area. And it just everything gets loosened up and it's awesome. And then the other thing too was cold showers at night is actually really good. So what it does is so your skin is a big organism and it resets your temperature calibration when you take those cold showers. So yeah, it's really comfortable to take a warm shower and then go to bed, but taking a cold shower and then going to bed just resets your whole organism to be like, I'm sleeping at the right temperature, I'm good. Which I've
Yeah.
also noticed, in why I take cold showers in the morning instead of at night, is I already sleep good. But the cold showers in the morning, if I'm working outside, which I do all the time year round in Wisconsin, and it's cold, I don't get cold as easy because now my body is recalibrated right away in the morning to that
Woof.
cold temperature.
I don't know that I could deal with that cold all the time like that.
It's not cold all the time. We don't, we have summer for probably 3 months, 4 months if we're lucky. But then our falls are really usually pretty nice and long. So we have a good fall for about 2 months. Our springs are like sometimes it's a long winter and a short
Mhm.
spring, and sometimes it's a normal spring. And right now it's kind of holding out on us, and it's still kind of like it's kind of wintry. I mean, it's not that warm out, but it's not that bad. I say it's not that bad, but I don't know. I live here.
Well, I can speak to that. I mean, it's humid as hell and hot in the south. But I've known it. That's all I've known my whole life. So, but I mean, to your sleeping point, and it's like really whatever works for you. If like I know some people, man, that like since they were kids, it's like the second they hit the pillow, boom, they're out.
Yeah.
I have more or less for me, it's always been something that I'm trying to work through or get better at to sleep better. And I'm pretty sure that a ninja could not kill me in my sleep, which is, I guess, good for that reason, but
Right.
probably not for much else beyond that. So, it's cool. Like, it's really cool to see, the different things that people are incorporating into their lives, and it's also helped me to be more receptive to whatever that thing is, even if
Yep.
it's something that initially I was like,
Mm,
really? Like, I
yeah.
don't know, or whatever. But because I hear, like you say, it's like, like I take my cold showers at night. I take my showers generally at night for the most part. But like you say that you do it in the day, in the morning, and then you go through the day, it's pretty cold anyways, whatever. If you sleep good, man, I'm not going to be the one to be like, you should, change that. So, that's another cool thing. And the way that people incorporate, whether it's a certain type of movement, or they're doing it, using new tools or implements. I mean, there's always new things that it's pretty cool to see how they benefit people's lives. And it's, again, helped me to like sit back a little bit more and just take a look and see and learn approach versus make any strict judgment. But it's kind of like always white belt mentality. I'll just try to learn as much as I can, and be, if you're less judgmental and just more interested in learning, I
Yeah.
think I think that's just going to be that's just a better path. And that helps people to connect with others better too,
Well, I
which,
think you learn more too, because if you're always at that white belt mentality, you're always at the bottom and you're always going to have to be learning. And that just makes you
yeah.
stronger. Because once you plateau, then what are you doing? You're not doing anything. I mean, at that point, you start spreading what you know, but then you're not restarting over to learn something new. And I think that's horrible for the brain, you know?
And that's a super good point too, because as I've done this, man, it's like I've been able to continually find more ways to expand and to learn more and to continue to grow. And the brain fireworks are just incredible. I mean, these past 2 years, it's not just that I get a good workout when I go to move with the club, kettlebells, mace, whatever. It's also that when you learn a new move, and the same thing, I mean, jujitsu is also really similar this way too, right? It's like when you learn a new move, the brain fireworks is amazing. Like, it feels so satisfying to feel like you've ingrained something, or you've really learned something. And
Mm-hmm.
and so you not only get the physical benefit of it, but really and truly, I think your brain feeds off it as well, which is why things like kettlebells and maces are so amazing, because of the type of brain work that it takes. I mean, with something like that's maybe one more clear benefit that you could probably say is associated with conventional tools versus the conventional, because there's a little bit less thinking. It's more like set your body, get your form right, but execute the movement and then do it for a certain amount of reps, versus working through kettlebell or mace flow or what have you. Your brain is always having to kind of stay connected to the feeling of what's happening, lest you get that mace kiss that we talked about. It doesn't feel so good.
Yeah, it doesn't feel good. Doesn't not feel good. But the other thing it also teaches you is kind of like you start paying attention more, not just even with your workouts, but your everyday life. So for better sleep, I try to be off the phone or computer as much as I can before I go to sleep, right? So now
Yeah,
I'm starting to okay, I'm going to just start reading before I go to sleep, because I know that helps me wind down.
that's good.
Well, last night, I had the great idea of I'm just gonna like walk around the living room and read. So I did. I walked around the whole living room, the kitchen, just laps after lap for like 40 minutes while I was reading my 10 to 15 pages. And what I noticed was I was like, okay, first of all, I read way faster. I
Yeah.
comprehended a lot more of it. The downside is you can't go to sleep.
Oh, really?
Yeah, all the blood's flowing. Like it was weird. Like you could feel the
Huh.
blood moving and you just felt super good. And I'm like, this is really weird, but I really like it. Normally I only read for a half hour. I read for like 45 minutes. I was just, and everything kind of stuck in the brain. But then I went to brush my teeth and lay down, and now I can't fall asleep. And I'm like, what did I just do? Like, this sucks.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was weird. So now I'm gonna maybe start trying to move and read like 5 pages in the morning, but just walk
Mhm.
around the house, kind of like get that movement, the blood flowing. So I'm gonna practice and try that out. But yeah, I couldn't fall asleep for probably like 45 minutes last night. It was insane.
That's interesting, man, because so I'll tell you, I'm a I'm a sports fan, but I'm a college sports fan, I would say, just based on where I'm from Arkansas, Razorback. And so, our basketball coach at the University of Arkansas, Eric Musselman, has made a practice where he works out every day, every morning, but he takes a specific time where he gets on the treadmill and this is his time when he'll print off like quotes from other sports leaders, coaches. Like he's always looking for inspiration. It's a pretty cool practice that he's built up, but he does this while he's like on the treadmill.
Mhm.
So whether he's like walking or running I think he's jogging and doing pretty well with it. But like that's when he gets in like a certain type of consumption of reading and material, and it's something that he's talked about for a long time. So it's super fascinating. But it makes now that you say it, like it makes sense that he does that in the morning to start his day versus doing it at night. I'll make sure not to make a path in my living room
It was,
before bed.
yeah, it was super weird. It was just like, I noticed it probably like 15 minutes in, where it was like, okay, this isn't a normal like reading experience. This
Yeah.
is weird. Like, not that my heart rate was elevated, because I'm literally just pacing, like nothing crazy, just in my house. And then I'm just like, man, I should do this in the morning. I'm gonna do this in the morning. Well, then, like I said, took forever for me to fall asleep. And then I looked at my watch and it said I didn't sleep for shit last night. So I overslept this morning. So I didn't get to do it this morning. I'm doing it tomorrow. Like I have to, because it's like, it was just super weird. Like just walking and reading, like no idea what it's actually doing. It just felt weird. I mean, weird in a good way.
Yeah, but a way that you probably should do in the morning versus at night before you go to bed.
Correct.
Yeah.
So if I start doing it in the morning just to get the blood flowing right away, I think that'll be a good way to wake up.
Have you ever heard of uh like I think for a long time it was thought that if you worked out like within 3 hours of going to bed, it would disrupt your sleep. And then I saw something a few years ago that's like, no, that's not true. Doesn't matter. You should be able to go to sleep after, within an hour of working out, not a problem, whatever have you. So I don't really know what obviously, as I mentioned, I'm still working on my own sleep pattern. So I don't know what the end result is there. But I wonder, like, if the fact that you were using your brain and reading while moving is maybe, like the way that you got your brain working in a particular way had some effect on that. That's pretty
Yeah,
curious.
that could be it. Because in that book, that Sleep Smarter book, it does say that it isn't a myth that if you work out before you go to sleep. So have you ever had such a good workout, like you were just on a high all day?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what you're doing when you try to go to sleep. You're not going to be able to go to sleep because you're on this lifting high or running high or whatever. There's way too technical for me, but you're releasing all these chemicals into your body that is literally waking itself up. And then you're trying to come home and go to bed. You're thinking if you're going to get this hard workout in and then be able to just go home and go to bed. That's not true. Like your body is reacting and producing all these chemicals, and that's going to keep you awake.
Yeah.
So working out in the morning is the better way to do it, because then if you can get that high, you can pretty much ride that thing the whole day and you're good. But doing it before bed, not so good. I think he said like 5 hours before you go to bed.
Oh, wow.
You shouldn't do any more than that. So it's like, there's a lot of rules. There's too many rules. I don't like them, but if I could sleep better, it was just weird. Like I said, it was just weird. And I think that's what it was doing, is that I was, I didn't pay attention to how fast I was walking. My house isn't big. Like I can't go far and I can't go fast, but it was just weird to be like it felt good to get the amount that I read done in the time that I did and actually retain it. But then I like literally laid down 5-10 minutes afterwards and was like, my mind was just running. And I'm just like, I don't know what's going on here. This sucks.
Yeah. Because he found a way to be productive, but it wasn't productive on the back end of helping you get to sleep. So, but that's like you said, there's too many rules. And ultimately that's why it's like, man, there are some things that work for some people. I think I saw like Kevin Hart, the comedian.
Yep.
I think that dude gets like, maybe I saw it on like Joe Rogan or something, but I think he gets like 5 hours of sleep or less, or like 4 hours or something on average. Like some people can operate in that mode. And in fact, I saw something recently that said that sleep disruption is worse than than not getting a perceived amount of sleep. So if generally like you're really good at only getting 3 hours of sleep, that it's better for you to like maybe stay on that path than to like sleep in one day and get 8 hours, because then it can just throw you off.
And that's what it does. And that's where a lot of people come into the issue. And that's exactly what this book was talking about, that if you have a set schedule where, you have to be to work by 7, so you're up by 5 every morning, and then all of a sudden Saturday and Sunday come and you're like, screw it, I don't have to work today, I'm sleeping until 7. Well, you just completely screwed up your cycle. And that's why you're so tired on Monday morning, because you slept in 2 days in a row for an extra hour to 2 hours, and your whole system's thrown off. You're better off getting up and not doing much and just hanging out than sleeping in those extra 2 hours.
Yeah.
So, and that makes that your whole system's just messed up. But yeah, there is some people that, I follow Jocko Willing. That guy sleeps like never. So it's the same thing. Like, it's like, okay, like I need more than 5 hours of sleep.
Yeah. Yeah. In the case that I think I saw recently, the guy was saying that he was a doctor. And when he was doing his residency, he was saying that like you go days sometimes where you'll do a full, 24-hour shift or whatever, and you may get 1 hour of sleep for like every day for a week. And so that sucks. But he was like basically saying like, but if you're operating on that level and then you sleep in on the one day, you'll totally throw it off. So it's fascinating, weird stuff. I still personally, for me, I'm just gonna have to. I think there's things that I'm still less willing to give up. From my schedule that I think I should probably be better about to help me get better sleep. But I come from a family of people that take naps, and so I think I've also, I nap sometimes, and that probably doesn't help. But you know, I do have a kind of a cadence, as weird as it is. It's just always can get better. So glad to hear about what you've been doing.
Yeah, well, I think naps are awesome because I feel amazing as long as it's no more than 25 minutes.
That's important too.
Because
Yeah.
if you get past that, it's like you wake up and you feel 100 times worse than what you felt.
Yeah.
You hit that 15 to 25 minutes and you feel like, all right, I feel good. That was enough.
Yeah.
So I like naps.
I even saw people advertising like coffee naps, where like you drink a cup of coffee and then you immediately go to sleep, or you try to go to sleep, and then like supposedly when you wake up, you have that refreshment of waking up as well as the coffee, because it supposedly takes time for caffeine to get into your system. Something I read about at one point, but still I don't know that I've incorporated that, or especially now because I stopped.
Well, by the time that I would want to be able to take a nap, I would have so much caffeine running through my veins that just wouldn't work. Like, I don't want to take a nap at 8 in the morning. I'd want to take a nap by 2. Well, I'm already done drinking all my coffee by then, and it's probably still in my system. I don't know. I don't know if that would work. I guess you would have to not drink coffee, then take a nap, and then maybe I don't know.
Sounds like
that's weird. I've never heard that before. That's weird.
Well, like I said, some people do take naps more regularly, and some people don't. I know some people that if they take a nap, it totally messes up their day. But those are also the people that like clockwork. They hit the pillow, they're out, they wake up at their certain time. And I'm slightly envious of those people to a degree, because I think that's really awesome. But more importantly, it's like I also just try to pay attention to how I feel, and how like if I feel like I'm alert or awake. And so things that have helped a lot have been just being really conscious about hydrating, especially in the morning, especially right when you wake up. I've heard about the benefits of that, and I can attest to it. So like I take like I said, a little hydration cocktail in the morning.
Did you get that? Did you get that recipe from Aubrey Marcus and On the Day?
I did. I didn't know that what does he have?
It's literally just like warm water, couple tablespoons, not tablespoons, like a teaspoon or tablespoon. I don't remember. You put salt and lemon in it.
Yeah, I've heard about this one. Yes. Okay. That's a very popular one.
Yeah. So I do that and it feels good. It doesn't even taste like it doesn't taste bad. It actually tastes, I don't know. I like it. I also like salt. So
they call it morning margarita. Is that what they call it?
No, he just calls it his morning mineral cocktail.
Okay. No, that's good. Actually, I really like that one. But the reason why I haven't done it is because when you squeeze a lemon, I think it like gives you like 20 calories or something plus the salt.
Mm,
And so, I've just been on the intermittent fasting thing for so long that I'm so worried about anything that can potentially
throw it
break my
off.
fast, throw it
Well,
off.
I
So
actually started, we ran out of lemons a long time ago, and I stopped putting lemons in. So it's literally, I'm just drinking salt water when I wake up. But I do make sure it's the pink Himalayan salt because it has more minerals in it.
yeah.
And that's really the whole goal, is that you're replacing what you lost when you're sleeping and sweating the night before.
Yep.
So, and
Yep.
it's to get those organs firing in the way they should be firing. And
And
it
that
feels
makes
good.
Yeah,
I mean,
I mean, and that makes sense. Like, I didn't know. So growing up, we had, I guess, Gatorade and stuff, which isn't. I mean, it's obviously has problems of its own, but the reason why Gatorade was important was because it put salt into your system. Before that, they gave athletes salt tablets, which I had
yep,
no idea about.
yep.
So totally makes sense that like when you need to hydrate and your body needs to replenish,
But
you need
that's
something
like,
with salt.
so misleading because, growing up, everybody was told, well, don't have too much salt because salt's bad for you.
Hmm.
I don't know if have you ever heard that? I know I heard it a
Yeah, I mean,
lot,
yeah, I definitely heard don't have too much salt for sure. Yeah.
but the amount of salt that you actually need to make it damaging is insane. Like
Probably a lot, yeah.
salt's amazing for you.
Mhm.
Helps you stay hydrated, that's for sure. And also it feels good in the morning. Like your whole body, you just feel it waking up. I'd
Yeah.
recommend it. Just do salt. Don't do lemon.
I do. I mean, I can go grab it here, right? I've got this thing that I started taking called Early Bird Morning Cocktail. I don't get paid to say this or anything. But it's a company that they basically have a 0 calorie morning, powder. It kind of, you ever had one of those emergency things?
Yep, yep.
Like, if you're got a cold or whatever, vitamin C. It kind of tastes like that, but it's got like L-bromine and ashwagandha and some other stuff in it that seems pretty natural. And I mean, it has by and large done what it said in terms of, for me, was like I wanted something to replace coffee with. So just because I feel like I still have coffee on the occasion, but I have largely gone by moving without it. And this has helped me to have what I would say is a better feeling, more sustained energy that doesn't necessarily feel like I am going to come to a crash or anything like that. And and I do feel like way more hydrated, which coffee is another thing that does dehydrate you. So it's like you gotta kind of weigh both sides of it. But
Oh no, for sure. Yeah, and I have rules when it comes to coffee. So I have to. So I'm up at 4:20, 4:30 every morning. And then I do my morning mineral cocktail. And then I need to be in my gym by 5. So I can have my workout done by 6. So I can get the kids up and get them ready for school. And then I can start my day.
wow, yeah,
So I I don't start making coffee until I go in to start my cold shower, which is right around 6:20 to 6:30. And then the only way I'm allowed to have my first cup of coffee is if I finished one of my Nalgene's, 32 ounces. And
there
if
you
I did a
go.
hard workout, I have to drink 1.5 of them.
Okay,
If I drink one of the half of them plus my morning cocktail, then I can start drinking coffee. So if I don't have that done before my cold shower, I don't get coffee until that water is gone, and then I can have coffee. And then I do try to shut it off right around noon. So I have a couple
that's
hour
awesome.
window. So it kind of sucks because I used to drink coffee all day. And then after reading this book, I was like, oh, that's probably why I sleep like crap. So let's try it out. And I do. I feel like I sleep better. So, and I'm not mad about giving up coffee.
Yeah.
So,
No, well, and that's why it's like so it's like you've time tested yourself and you've changed enough variables where you've been able to like incorporate it. That's really awesome. What time of day? When do you do your jujitsu, or how often do you do
I do jujitsu 2 days a week, and it's tonight, Thursday. So
it?
Tuesdays and Thursdays. My son's class is from 5:30 until 6:30. Um, Most of the time, I'm able to help coach that, and then from 6:30 until 7:30 is the adults class, and then we stay and do live rolls afterwards. You can do drilling, you can do whatever you want, but it's pretty much open mat after 7:30, and they usually have to kick me out of there, so we're out of there by like 9:30. Try to be out of there no later than 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock's it's getting pretty late, but
Yeah.
you get a lot of good rolls in. Um, So I would say realistically 5:30 until about 9:30 is nonstop jujitsu, 2 days a
Wow, that's
week.
I mean, that. Does your son do it at that same level too? Or that
He
same level?
does he has to sit out during the adults class because he's only 9. But then some of the other dads, their kids go for the kids class. So then my son and their kids will hang out. And then once the adults class is open, we cone off a section of the mats, and that's where the kids can do their live rolls. So they don't usually stay as late as we do, but my son will come over and he'll watch, ask questions, and then try to pick up some new knowledge. So he's not constantly moving as much as me, but he is still there watching and learning it. So um,
That's
it's
really
it's
cool.
it's a lot. It's definitely a lot, and he is a bear to get up the next morning, but that's okay. I'm okay with it.
That's funny, but that's also pretty cool. Like, how long have you guys been doing it together? How long have you been doing jujitsu, and how long has your son been doing
So he's been doing it a month longer than me. I had to wait until I finished out my concrete season. So I started him in, what are we in? So 2021. We both started, he started it technically in 2020, December of 2020. I
it?
started
Okay.
in January of 2021. So we're still like super green at it, but that's another thing that's addicting. You know, I tell everybody jujitsu is for everybody, but not everybody is for jujitsu.
Yeah.
It's everybody should do it, but not everybody will do it. It's just
I
when you're literally seconds away, like someone literally could just kill you right now and they don't. It's I don't know. There's something about it. That's another thing that's addicting is like it's hard to describe until you do it. You just got to do it.
no, totally. I mean, it's funny. It's like I totally agree. I mean, everybody should try. I think it's one of those things. Martial arts in general, I think, are something that like not everybody's going to do it for their hobby or their career or whatever, but jiu-jitsu especially is one that like that transfer of energy, the moving, the literal rolling aspect of it, is something that I think can teach people a lot about themselves that they wouldn't have otherwise known, even if they don't totally dive into it. But
Right.
hearing you and talking about your kid, it's makes me think about like my experience growing up, where my dad, of course, didn't really have jujitsu in Arkansas, where I'm from as a kid. But so I grew up playing like all the traditional sports, and my dad was my coach, which is why I say that I pretty much didn't succeed in any of them. But but I think about it like, but it's kind of interesting that you have that experience with your kid, and like, I mean, has it been pretty fun like watching you guys like y'all both have developed, along this path like for the past year? I bet it's been pretty wild to see where you were, 15 months ago to now.
Yeah, it's actually really sweet. It's so I think the biggest thing is like you learn how your body moves. That's your biggest thing. Once you figure that out, like everything just is, it gets a little easier. And so my oldest that does jujitsu, he he's not the most athletic, but he tries 100%, which is awesome. So in this past year, his athleticness, as you would say, has gone through the roof. Like it's definitely he's starting to know his own body, he's starting to figure out how things move, where the center of gravity should be, all those things. And you can see him growing in that way. And I was like, I don't care if you don't know technique, like we can, like you got years to learn technique.
Yep.
Like we're not trying to make careers out of this. We're going for a good time and we're going to for a good workout. And learn the technique in a little bit, but learning how your body moves is way more important. So him figuring out how his body moves and how he actually works has been awesome to watch. So we just did well, I didn't because of my shoulder injury, but he just did a tournament and he ended up getting second place,
Awesome.
which was pretty awesome to watch. So
That's like such a valuable experience to have, I think.
I think so too. Yeah, especially he knew it was coming up. We did so that was our second tournament. His first tournament, he technically got second, but it was just him and another kid, and he knows that. He'll still say he got second. You're gonna tell everybody he got second, but this other one he had to work for. He still got his butt kicked, but he also kicked butt. So it's kind of like he put in the extra time. We stayed and drilled. And learn stuff. So we got, like I said, our gym's awesome to where I mean, it's like a family when we're there. It's like everybody will just chip in and help teach you whatever you want to know. It's awesome. But the jujitsu community, there's like, I feel there's a hard line. Like you're either hardcore or it's family owned and operated, and it's just like it's
Yeah.
awesome. And if you're going to be a competitor, go to the hardcore gym. If you're going and you want to compete but you just want it to be still fun, then you go to this style gym. So
Yeah.
it's been fun. It's been fun. I have no plans on slowing down. I'm hooked. Like I get hooked pretty easy. So if it's a good thing, I'll stay with it.
You know, and that's so awesome because, man, I think about how, like, as you get older, I think, and I would say this is probably more the case for guys, generally speaking, at least from my perspective, that like you're a little more adverse to, and especially if you have kids, like, I think it's hard for guys to put themselves in positions where, like, you can get your butt kicked and you're going to have to learn something. You're going to suck
Right.
before you're going to be good at it, right?
Right.
And when you're a kid, I think it's a lot easier to learn that and to have that kind of experience early on. I think is going to be really beneficial for him down the road, like in a lot of ways. And that's why I think it's kind of cool to see now. Like we're probably now getting to a point. It's 2022. Now you're getting to the point where you've had some kids that have actually grown up with it in some
Yep.
capacity. Now they're like 20 years old and they've been doing it since they were like 8, or whatever, or even maybe younger than that. And so I'm keenly interested in seeing that kind of cultural development and seeing also like how these kids and these people approach other aspects of their life, because I do think it has, like, as corny as it sounds, that kind of like life application to it where
Well, it does. It adds that adversity to your life at a
yeah,
young age of being like, I suck at this, and there's a kid the same size as me, and he's way better.
yep,
Okay, well that's like life. That's just how it's gonna be. Like just knowing that if you're at the bottom, you work hard enough, you can rise to the top and make things happen. So it's like I have 3 boys. My oldest does jujitsu with me. My middle he doesn't want to do jujitsu for whatever reason, but he loves wrestling. So now I just found a wrestling gym that they'll be starting. Classes will be starting in June. So he's going to that. And then my youngest is just too young to do either of them. So, but he says he's doing both. Do both. I don't care. Just do one of them. As long as you're doing, I feel like if you do wrestling or jujitsu, now that I've been doing jujitsu, that's enough adversity to get you going in life.
yeah,
Just to know how to push those hard times.
yeah, exactly. Like, and like, yeah, jujitsu, both of those sports especially give you like probably some of the most brisk feeling of like failure, because like it's like whether you tap in jujitsu or you get pinned in wrestling, it's like boom, you just lost. Like, and it can be like sobering, but for a kid, I think that's even more. I mean, it's something that they can, I think, swallow a little bit easier. And the really amazing thing about all this stuff, I think, is what happens when you do invest in it over time, and then it really becomes the art.
Right.
Then you can really truly get into it. I mean, like when you see 2 dudes that are rolling in jujitsu that are just, they're awesome. You can say they're animals or whatever. They're badasses, but like it looks really cool. You can
For
tell
sure.
like people competing at that high level, and with what I do, even like with maces and stuff, like I would say, to me, in many ways, it's kind of like when you get really good at guitar or good at singing and playing, like you develop the art. It's like, at the very beginning you might have been just like some guy that played for friends around, but eventually some at some point some people become Slash, and they can freaking jam out, and so I love it from the perspective that not only does it teach you something early on about adversity, but when you really do stick to it, it's amazing to see how it evolves into this unique expression of yourself, even if it's just wrestling or jiu-jitsu. It
Right.
totally comes out in your game, the way you play it, what your perspective on it, the things you like about it.
Well, and the
That's
other
the
big
beauty.
thing it teaches you too is like you didn't lose as a team, you just lost, just you.
Yeah.
And if you want to fix it, you have to put the work in, not the team.
Yep.
So with it being an individual sport, even if you go to a crappy gym, you can still be a better wrestler or jujitsu. I don't even know what you call them, jujitsu person.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
like it's just the internet's flooded with it now. You can do online courses. I mean, you're not going to have that whole feel, but when you go to your gym, you can practice those moves. Like there's so many ways to learn the stuff. And if you want to be better at it, you can be better at it no matter what it is. But if you lose, it's on you. Like nobody else did it. That
Yep.
guy just beat you. End of story.
Yeah. One on one. Like there's
Right.
nothing like like I said that like some of my formative wrestling experiences were getting my butt handed to me by blind kids. And that, that was definitely definitely an eye opener for me. But like, it's like also too, what I learned in that is not, I think there's a part of you that like feels sorry for yourself when something like that happens. But even more than anything, I developed a respect for the effort and work that that guy put in. And
Right.
seeing that, experiencing it, like it gives you kind of that silver lining of going, well, A, it makes sense why I got my butt kicked, but B, more than anything, that's what I can be if I work for it or I keep moving towards it. So, the cool part, and this is where it starts to get into just the movement in general of whatever it is that you want to get into, is it's like you can also find the thing that you learn from and also like find that nice medium where it doesn't tax you to the point that you can challenge yourself to the point that you stay in that like perfect area of growth, but not so much that every single time it's like mentally you just want to give up or you want to quit or you want to
Right.
move on, what have you. I definitely think that we're in a world now where there's so many different things that you can do that even though I think everybody should have a jujitsu experience, if they don't, they can likely find something even in the unconventional world of maces, clubs, kettlebells, whatever, landmine, that if they can find that sort of green zone of growth and
Right.
stay in it and like constantly find that growth. And that's super. I mean, that's the thing that, if I could like package in a box with a bow and give to people, I would do it all day, every day.
For sure. It's really just comes down to just doing hard stuff every single day. Just do something
Yeah,
that's hard.
challenging yourself.
That's all it
Yeah.
is. It doesn't have to be physical. It could be mental. Like the book I'm reading right now, it's a hard read for me. I'm a really shitty reader and I know that, but I'm doing it anyways. Apparently it's way easier when you walk around your living room at 9:30 at
Yeah.
night. But
Right.
but just challenge yourself. Doesn't matter what the challenge is. It can be anything. Just learn something new and challenge yourself. If you make yourself learn something, you're growing. As soon as you
Yeah.
stop learning, you're dying. That's just end of story. We've heard it all before, so it's true.
Yeah. Comfort's a slow death.
Comfort is a very slow death, and I try to make myself not very comfortable.
Isn't it so interesting that like our brains are programmed to solving problems, but we need to constantly like like there's never gonna be a time, I don't think. I'm kind of getting more to this point in my life where I'm realizing like there's not gonna be a day or a moment where like you're just gonna ever get to the end. Like you may start a new journey. And like and it's good to complete things. It feels good, but it's super important for you to find whether it's the next thing or the next evolution of that thing to keep feeding yourself that brain. And in other words, to your points, like always staying in that, always trying to be, keep yourself in that outside of that comfort zone just a little bit, or just challenging yourself, because that's so much more satisfying. And like I can live with myself much more knowing that I whether it's like accomplish something in the day, but usually to your point comes in the form of like doing something challenging, doing something hard, doing something
Right.
that I didn't want to do, but I made it. And um, and I think that there's cool ways to find stuff like that that you can integrate, that you can like feed yourself on and keep going back to over and over again.
Well, that's the other thing. It helps you build confidence too. So if you're
Oh
not,
yeah.
if you're getting good at one thing and you know you suck at the other thing, well, it's okay, because if you can look back and be like, well, I did suck at that. That was a year ago. Look at all this work that I put in. So if I suck at this and just put the time in, I can get good at that. And I want to be good at it. So I'm going to put the time in to do it.
Mhm.
So building confidence and knowing like, yeah, I failed along that road. That road's not even over. Like I literally just started, like I just got on the on ramp and I
Yeah.
still have miles to go with that journey, but that's fine. It's hard and it's long, but I want to start this too. And I know I can do that. So just having that confidence of being able to start something new and being okay and telling your ego to shut up and be like, listen, dude, you're going to suck at this for probably a solid 6 months. And that's totally okay.
Yeah.
You're just learning. You
Yeah.
don't
I
have
mean,
to
and
be 100% right away.
that reminds me, yeah, and exactly. Well, and that reminds me of like, so I don't know if you've heard of the Enlifted coaches or Enlifted
Mm,
group. It's a group started by Mark England, and I think there's a lot of good stuff that they do where it's basically about the story that you tell yourself, your internal dialogue.
right.
And I know that, I mean, I can speak to this in my, especially in my past. It's not really the case as much these days because I've worked on it over time. But it's like I think some people also have told themselves a story where they're like, it's like, no, I can't do that. I could never be that. I could never be good at that. I could never be. I can tell you this personally. I never, ever, ever expected myself to be putting as much of myself out there on social media and especially doing anything fitness related because honestly, man, despite the fact that I have been super disciplined about exercise and fitness, especially in the years leading up to Mace Flow, I never really like I I think I told myself more often than not, like, there's no way, like, you'll get too much, you'll get criticized too much if you post that flow or that workout or that movement, and it really was just a story that I told myself
Oh,
for
yeah.
years and years and years. And the more that you like, if you can find something to latch on to that you can that you're okay with sucking at for a little while, you will improve, which is improvement. But then to your point, you'll have that confidence that says, well, I mean, look how far I am or how far I've gotten behind that thing. And then that'll give you the confidence to do the next thing. I think this is like super important to just human growth overall. Like whether it's like being a husband, a father, and all the different roles that we play in our lives, especially as men. There's a lot of expectations that we have, different roles that we play in people's lives. And like we're not all good at them to start, right?
Nope.
But like finding one aspect of it and getting better at it is going to give you it's the only way really to give you what you need to move on to the next thing that you've told yourself for so long. I just suck at that. I'm going to suck at it. Well, you don't have to. And
Right.
that's a hard thing.
It is a hard thing. I mean, I tell myself stories all the time. Like I want to post more on social, and then it's just like, yeah, that looks really dumb, and then I don't post, and then the next day it's like, why didn't you just freaking? Who cares? Who cares?
Yeah.
Like literally, who cares? I don't care. I mean, I tell you I don't care, but at the moment it's like I'm not doing that. So I've been trying to get better at it, and it's literally I am at the beginning stages of a lot of this because for a long time my workouts involved a barbell. And then I took a long time off. And now I'm just getting back into it because the goal now is A, I don't want to feel like crap. And B, I want my kids to have to keep up with me for as long as possible. I don't
Yeah.
ever want to have to try to keep up with them. The goal is to make sure they have to keep up with dad.
Yeah.
Be like, oh crap, dad's ready. Let's go. Like,
Yep.
there's no slacking.
Yeah.
So that's the goal. That's my new
Absolutely.
goal.
No, I mean, I think it's awesome. Just trying to think, so much of I mean, so much of this is just is helping me to see my perspective overall, like seeing how things have changed, and like that's what I would say to people, especially is, that's what I'll say to you too. It's like keep finding ways to put yourself out there and push because like you're on a great path and like and there are others like us that we need to keep doing these things and putting themselves out there and showing because even just like how we started this conversation, nobody knows about half of this stuff,
Right.
and so much of it happens just because people see other people sharing
Mhm.
about it, and that leads to a lot of amazing flywheel effects over time, like in the community with other people and other people sharing in your own confidence. And I definitely think that there's something to be said about the type of impact that you have on others. That's something that I'm learning a lot too. Is like even if I post something that I'm not as confident in, and that happens still today, like there are uh there are a lot of people that are inspired by it or that it really helps. And that's a little less tangible, and that's a lot of that you won't even know that you're doing it.
Right.
But I now believe in it to such a degree that I know that it's important for me to continue on. And the more people that I see that are willing to put themselves out there and do it, the more it builds everything. It builds confidence in you, that person that's posting, as well as everybody that's watching. And and frankly, the good thing about something like Instagram versus like say Twitter, I feel like is a dumpster fire half the
Oh
time.
yeah.
And
I
doesn't
don't
even
even have a I don't even have an account. I just can't. I
I
can't.
use it for news and some other things, but I still don't know that it's really that useful at that. But something like Instagram is really it is a lot better in that way because the community is just way more receptive, and the trolls and stuff. There's not many. There's fewer. Like there's a lot. I have received a whole lot less crap
Right.
overall than I really even expected I would when I started out. I figured, people would be all in my DMs and comments. And I do get some from time to time, but like it's not, I mean, it's, ultimately there's so much truth and movement and I think people can generally see good spirited individuals that are trying to put themselves out there. It's super inspiring. So I'm grateful to you for like, it's not easy to pick up a mace and start swinging. It's even harder to pick up a mace and then record yourself doing it, and then to put it out there. And so, but with your experience now with jujitsu, like it's cool that you have that
Right.
background, you failed in a little bit, but you've gotten so much better at and how that all translates. And here's the other really cool side effect to posting online when you do post like a workout or something, is it's actually like watching your own tape. So this is probably one of like if I had one ingredient to the equation that has helped my progression, believe it or not, recording yourself and then like I'll watch it to see what I want to post, but inevitably I'm seeing what I'm doing wrong and right. So
Right.
I'm always like it very much reminds me of my wrestling days when whether or not you would win or lose a match, you go back and you look at your tape and go, what I do good, what I do bad. And that has kind of been a little bit of a secret sauce, if you will, that I think has helped a lot of folks that have decided to start posting because you pay way more attention to how you look when when you're planning on having somebody else see it.
For sure. And honestly, I can say that really the first post that I made about it was really because of the two guys that I'd had a podcast with before, and then that's what made me want to start trying it. I posted it and tagged them, and I tagged them for a reason. I wanted them to critique the shit out of it, to know what I was doing wrong. And the one guy jumped on it so freaking fast. He messaged me right away, go watch this video. This is what you're doing wrong. He described what I was doing wrong, did another quick video, didn't post it, but sent it to him. And he said, okay, sweet, do this and this, and then it's perfect. And sent him another video. But literally within 3 days, I had the technique down to where it actually felt really good and comfortable to be swinging that, all because I made the one decision to just post it. So
Yeah.
knowing that you can take the criticism, it wasn't even criticism. It was literally like he was teaching me. It was
Yeah.
like, I'm tagging you guys. This is my reasoning. I want you to tell me what I'm doing wrong. So I'm tagging you. So tell me what I'm doing wrong. Didn't say that, but left it there. And right away, it was literally, I bet you it was 10 minutes after I posted it. He was already DMing me, dude, you got to fix this. Go watch these 2 videos. This is exactly how you need to do it.
Yeah.
And it was awesome.
And that's the thing too. Like when the people that actually do have a following, like that they've been doing it for a while, they're like they want to help. And
Yeah,
and they
for
they they
sure.
have like they put so much like there's like the I could probably count on with my 2 hands the times that I've seen people jump on each other, people that like are trying to post, and whether one is way more experienced than the other, it's very, very rare for someone to jump on somebody else because there's just nothing good that comes of it. And
No,
but what you do see a lot more of is you absolutely see the community rally around others that are starting it. And also because these movements are still brand new for pretty much everybody. I
for
mean,
sure.
I didn't know what a 360 was until literally not even 2 years ago.
Right.
And I was very fortunate that when I started doing it, there were a lot of folks out there that had already been doing it, and everyone's just super receptive to seeing others get better, and it just makes everybody better. And so that has been another really cool, awesome side effect about engaging with the community, and I have no regrets. No regrets at all about posting and sharing because generally speaking, like I said, I come from a good place. I want people to know what's out there, what
Right.
exists, to have the option to know that they can do this if they want. And even if they don't want to do it, maybe they'll enjoy or find something beneficial in being a part of my journey and my practice. But everybody there though is just super receptive to helping you along your way. And I would encourage folks, like anybody listening to this, it's like, you may not you may not want to eventually post anything on social media if you decide to pick up something and start doing something new. But if you do record yourself and you watch it, you'll definitely get a lot of benefit, I think, from that. And I've told other folks that even offline, it's like, there's a lot of benefit there. And if you do post, I think you'll be surprised at how many people will be there to help you.
Right.
Because
Well,
everyone wants to see others get successful.
yeah, the other cool thing is when you get your first message of someone being like, dude, I started doing this because of you. You're just like,
Yes.
what? Really? Like I thought I was just posting like just the post and didn't really have a direction with it. And we were at jujitsu on Tuesday. I took my son to his, but my wife was out of town. So I had the other two kids with me. And I was like, I'm just not going to do my class. It's just too much to try to handle this. And one of the dads there, he has three boys that do jujitsu there, and he was wearing a gi, and I was like, "What are you doing?" He goes, "Dude, I'm watching you, and you're working on getting in shape and making sure you're taking care of your kids. You inspired me to freaking sign up for jujitsu." And I'm like,
Oh,
"Seriously?" And I'm like,
dude.
"Oh my god." He's like, "Heck yeah, I watch your stuff all the time," and I'm like, "Okay, that's like super awesome." So now I was pissed because I didn't get to stay and roll on Tuesday and it was his first day, but I'm like, dude, I'll be here on Thursday. Guaranteed.
Yeah.
If I have the kids, I have the kids. And if I don't, awesome, but I'll be here. So when you start getting messages and you hear from other people that it's like, dude, I started doing something because of you, or I really pushed because of this. It's just like, all right, just keep going. You'll figure it out.
Yeah, that's something that I don't know that I was prepared for when it first started happening. But it now I'm just blessed. I'm appreciative because that's something that really settles well in your soul. Like it feels good to know, like I did this thing, I got out of my comfort zone and I'm just pushing myself, right? Like
Right.
it's just about me. And then somebody sends you a message and they're like, man, what you do is super inspiring. I just bought a mace. I just bought like this habit, or they'll ask me, what should I get? What should I blah blah blah? And then they'll come back and they'll be like, I got it. And then I'll see a post or they'll tell me something and like, and it's just that's it. Like it warms my heart. It's like that's super. I mean, that's what really brings it full circle. And then you're like, man, this is an amazing thing. And to be able to share that with others, to see the growth, I love it. I love,
For sure.
I'm glad, so grateful that you started posting, jujitsu stuff. So grateful that you got a mace and that you're spreading the good gospel of it. I think it's awesome. I think you're a great example.
Thank you. I think you're a great example as well. I mean, if it weren't for all the guys that started swinging maces beforehand, I wouldn't have even thought about it. I mean, you just don't see them. Like you see, I mean, sometimes you'll see them, some ads for them, and it's just like, when I was first seeing, it, I was like, dude, what is this thing? Like, but then I also thought the same thing about a kettlebell. Like, and then you pick
Hmm.
one up and start working out, and you're just like, oh my god, this is not easy.
Yeah.
And then you pick up a steel mace, and you're just like, that's two totally different feelings. So I don't want to confuse those. Like you realize how hard a kettlebell is to do a workout with. And then you
Hmm.
go to a steel mason. If you start with the right weight, it's not that it's hard, it's just different. And then all of a
Yeah.
sudden you're hooked and you're just like, why is this so addicting? Like it's awesome.
Wow.
So
And it's like, too, the other thing I think about, man, and this is kind of like conversation fodder for future, but it's like the companies that make maces, clubs, and kettlebells, it's not Nike and it's not Adidas and some of these bigger companies. And so it's like it has this kind of niche place right now where many of the companies that make this stuff most people haven't heard of. I didn't know
right.
what set for set was. I didn't know what Titan Fitness was and some of these other companies. I bought a Titan Club, and what you kind of figure out is you'll find somebody that's moving it, or you'll see it somewhere somebody's moving it, and then you'll start Googling like, where do I what is that thing?
Right.
I did a post yesterday where I was just at the field by my house. There was some deer. I just did some flow with a 25-pound club. And one person commented and said, what the F is this thing? Why does it weigh so much? And so it's like they just haven't seen it. They just don't have any
Right.
idea. And so, if that person probably starts like Googling like clubs, they're going to realize like, yeah, you can't really get it at Dick's Sporting Goods. So it's
No,
like,
yeah. Yeah,
it's
you can't
weird.
just roll up anywhere and get it. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
So we just got to keep doing our thing, man, and keep
For
spreading the
sure.
good gospel.
For sure. Yeah, I need to invest. I need to get a few more. I need to start moving up in weight, but also start
Yeah,
working
you'll
on
see all
some.
my whole
Oh
collection here.
yeah.
Well, this is just a few of them right here, but yeah, it racks up pretty quick. I'm gonna eventually like try to get like an 8X and some other ones, but I still love getting the individual weighted, whether it's a kettlebell club or mace, and get one that's like specifically weighted for that
Wait,
size.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm gonna go the cheap route. I just picked up a collar that'll go over mine and I can add my weights to it for now. But I gotta get more. It's just hands down. It's you
super
get roped
addicting.
in. You get roped in. And that's the other thing. I was like, from on it, I think that 15-pounder was only like $40,
Yeah,
which isn't like it's not crazy expensive.
no, no, it's not. I mean, it's like if somebody was to ask me, it's like you're gonna have to go to a deserted island. You get one item or like one fitness item, I guess. I would for sure be like a mace. Like I'd either do
Yeah,
a 10 or 15-pound mace, like
right.
all day. And it's not, and it's your point, it's like $50, whatever, even after tax and shipping and so forth. That's like for something to be so inexpensive and such a great tool that has such a high level of utilization.
Right.
It kind of blows my mind. It's still amazing to me that you can get something that relatively inexpensive, and that should ideally be a factor that helps people get into it. Although I actually had another guy comment on one of my posts and say, "Where do I get one of these?" And I told him on it, said they're pretty inexpensive, but then he said, "Where do you get them used? Money's tight," and I was like, "Okay, well, I don't know, Facebook Marketplace or something." But people that are concerned about budget and expenses makes a lot of sense. But you can get a lot of mileage, especially your 15-pound mace. You can come back to that guy time and time again.
Oh yeah. I
Pretty
just
mileage.
lighten it up to learn new movements. I mean, it's the same thing when I first bought my first kettlebell, it was a 35-pounder. And I literally was like, okay, I'm buying a kettlebell. At that time, it was like $1.20 a pound, somewhere right around there. So it was like what, $50 for the kettlebell.
Mhm.
And I'm not going to the gym right now, but I'm gonna buy that. And then I bought a kettlebell program. So I'm all in for like, I think it was like $85. And for the 2 months, I like totally got my ass kicked with 35-pound because I
Yeah,
probably should have went with like a 20, but I was also like, ego was talking. I can do this. It's only 35 pounds. It's light. And then you realize your first movement, you can't do it and you totally
yeah,
die. But that was the start. So literally for $85 for 2 months of movement and work, it was awesome. I was,
that's
I
amazing.
was, I was hooked. So you can't really beat it. Find someone that you trust that you really like. If they have a program, buy the program, then buy the weight that goes with it and do that for 2 months. And then if you want to go further, dive in. If you can't
Do
go
it.
further, just up the reps. You'll figure stuff out. You'll add stuff
Yeah,
in. You'll take what you really like or what you need to improve on and keep going from there. I
it's
mean,
so
it's pretty
funny because like
simple.
yeah, I mean, well, and it's like it's so funny because 35 pounds, even like especially for maces, think about what it'd be like to pick up a 20-pound mace for like your first one. Like there are some people that have done that, but they're like immediately like, holy crap, I can't do this. So like they usually quickly scale down to a 10 or a 15 at that point. But it's definitely a humbling experience, especially for guy, everybody wants to be competitive and they're like, oh, well, if it's like a 215, I'm always gonna do the 15. And by the way, like, everybody does that.
Oh yeah, I did it. I
Everybody's always
did
like,
it.
get a 10 or 15. I'm gonna get the 15 every time.
Yeah, yeah. Which and I even said it. I put the video I posted. I was like, I probably should have went with the 10, but I feel like I'll grow into this quickly. And I did, but I'm glad I got the 15 because the 10 would have been like 2 weeks and I would have been like, all right, now I need the 15. But I'm glad I went with the 15. But now I need to move it up, go up a couple pounds, see what I can do.
And you can do honestly like the path you're on. I mean, you're on basically like the traditional path where people just do the 10 and 2s and 360s. And like I've got a 70-pound mace behind me. And that's how people can like it's amazing to think about. Like when you first start in 15 pounds, like, whoa, this is a lot. And like the degree to which you can actually go up is incredible. And so, that number can grow quite a bit, but or it can, or just as well, you can stay with the same weight and just change up your movements and start
Right.
doing like uppercuts and shooting arrows and backward lunges and stuff like that. So it's a whole world. It's just been such a cool experience to like, I don't know, whatever it is in my consciousness helped me to see amazed. And like, I'm super grateful for it because it's changed my life in so many amazing ways. And like all the different fun ways to incorporate one tool to the next, it's just been a blast. So, I'm still just amazed by how all this happened. And honestly, I think a lot of people see it, and not only myself, but in everybody else that picks it up. So hopefully, some folks will see this and they'll be like, "What the hell are they even talking about?" And they'll go and
Dive in.
dive
I
in.
get
Yeah,
sucked in.
through the rabbit hole, man. You
Yeah.
just don't
It's
stop.
deep. It's deep. All right, man. That was awesome. I gotta pee so freaking bad
I
because of
get
my
that
coffee.
coffee out.
Because of my coffee. So where can people find you first before we go?
So I appreciate that. Instagram is numero uno for me right now.
Oh yeah.
If they just search my name, Jared Michael Thomas, Jared like the jewelry store, Jared. They'll see my little icon there. I've got a YouTube, but I'm trying to figure out like how to actually put effort into YouTube and feel like I'm going to get something back out of it. That's honestly something I go back and forth about a lot because I want people to have more content, but it seems like I don't know how many videos I would have to post for anybody to see one of them. So I need to do some more education there, but definitely Instagram for now, and then hopefully I'll find some more ways to expand in the future.
Sweet. Well, man, it was a pleasure talking to you.
Pleasure talking to you, Mike. Thanks so much, man.
Yeah, no problem. Have a good one.
Thanks.